Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Back to Brilliance podcast. We're your hosts, Henry and Joseph. Thanks for tuning in. We ask that wherever you're listening, that you subscribe, leave a message or a review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. And with that, we want to get straight into our message for today. We're talking about finishing strong and why the ends matters more than the start or the beginning. So with that, I want to bring on our co-host Joseph. Say what's up, Joseph.
Hey, what's going on?
Good.
So, yeah, I just want to talk about, just like what you just said, right? The ability to just finish strong, right? Because it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. That's the close, right? That's where the money is made.
True, bro. And that is very true saying right there. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. We're all at different places in our lives, you know what I mean? So thing is we got to keep pushing and, keep going in spite of, wherever you're at. In order to get to where you want to be, you got to keep pushing, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And just coming back from adversity, right? So kind of like this weekend, last weekend or last Saturday was UFC 314. And one of my favorite fighters, Alexander Volkanovski, the featherweight champion and new second time, he came back from adversity. And as soon as he won, one of the first things he said was, "Adversity is a privilege." And I was like, "Damn!" Like that really sat with me.
yeah, that's a big word there. That's a bold statement. So adversity is a privilege.
Yeah. So he basically came back from two knockout losses, took some time off. Everyone was saying, "Oh, he's old. He's not the same. He's not going to do well." And turns out he did really well. He won pretty convincingly, unanimous decision, which means all the judges voted for him winning the fight. And so yeah, he said, that bold statement of adversity is a privilege. And like what that really means to me is just putting yourself in the fire, or like being a fireman, as Teddy Atlas says. You go in and you face adversity, and not everyone faces adversity because not everyone is ready to or willing to face adversity on a daily basis or even on a monumental scale.
Right. Yeah, no, we all face adversity, and the thing is, it does get tough, but it doesn't mean that things will stay that way. So the key to overcoming the adversity is, keep pushing through, keep fighting. Like you shared that fighter, everybody counted him out, right? They said he's too old, he doesn't have this, he's pretty much washed up, and he came back and yeah, with the upset, I'm sure it surprised a lot of people, and
Mhm.
to make a bold statement like that, adversity is a privilege, that just tells that he went through a lot, and he put a lot in to make it happen. So the good thing is, guys, good time. I mean, tough times don't last, tough people do, so.
Definitely. And that's kind of what stuck with me, is just the fact that he was really resilient through all of it. And I'm sure he had some bad days, but all of those bad days are gone now because of that one moment. That just 25 minutes, right, to change what had happened over the past year and a half or whatever it was. And again, things may be bad, but they're never bad forever.
Right. No, that's the thing. We keep saying that over and over. I know we sound like broken records, but the one constant is change. No matter what you're going through now, it's going to change, right? So, like when you're going through the hardships, and you're going through the adversity, two things are going to come, right? Two things motivate us, right? Pain or pleasure. So, like when you're going through the adversity, it's not very pleasurable, it's painful, but in that, you have to keep pushing, putting in the reps, keep doing what you're doing, and just knowing that it's not about how you start, but it's how you finish. And with, what are some tips, bro, or some ideas, that you have in terms of helping somebody, from, to carry out their mission, to finish well.
It's again, like how we said at the start, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, because you could start very poorly, but again, it's all about how you close the deal or how you end the job, right? Like it doesn't matter how you start, because oftentimes whenever you start, it's going to be bad or it's going to be a poor job. But as you go on, as you do your reps, you get stronger. Um, there was a quote that I'm going to butcher that my friend told me yesterday, but he was saying, um, like, basically, you feel weak until you're strong, right? If you work out, you're going to feel weak, but you're getting stronger. If you're putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, you feel fearful, but you're getting stronger. And just all of those little things, like it's all about just going and doing the hard work.
Again, you're right, bro. Putting in those reps, you know. And when you're going through adversity, you're going to feel like, you're going to have a lot of mixed emotions and mixed feelings, mixed, things, but those are just feelings. And the reality is you got to keep pushing, you got to have faith in yourself, so to speak, so, and that's what's going to get you through the hardships, through the adversity.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's having faith in yourself. That's a very underappreciated thing for people that don't have faith in themselves. That's something that I really had to learn within the past 2 years, I would say. My faith in myself was non-existent for a while, and I saw the fruit of that. I saw that I didn't stick with things, that I didn't believe in myself to do things. And it's still a work in progress for sure, but now that I do have faith in myself, now I'm showing up better as a person for everyone around me. And it's because I have faith in my abilities to give people a good time, to give people a good product, or whatever the case may be. And so just having faith in yourself, having confidence in yourself is so important.
Right. No, and for those of you guys that are tuned in, having that faith in yourself, again, there's times that when you go through some hardships, you feel like, oh man, I can't, I just want to give up. Don't
Mhm.
keep going, keep pushing. You just have to find the different tools. So, and if you can't figure anything that's working, the thing, like we talked many times before, journaling. Joseph has recommended that multiple times. Journal, just write something down. We talked about getting out there and even just taking a simple walk, in the park. You'd be surprised what it does for you, and again, joining a community is very important because we all stumble, we all fall, we all have hard times, but it's nice when you have somebody that, an accountability partner that will just call and say, hey, what's going on? Maybe they'll be the one to just kind of give you that little boost up, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even a little shakeup, just you gotta be hit with some reality sometimes, or, some hard truths. But even then it's out of love. But even still, like, you can either be your number one critic, or you could be your number one cheerleader, or both. That's the healthy medium, right? Is to be able to, like we said previously, give yourself flowers and give yourself coal, because not only are you going to be the most unbiased if you choose to be that way toward yourself, but you can also be the most unbiased person for yourself as well. So it goes both ways, right? You can both tell yourself all the things that you need to improve on, but you can also tell yourself all of the things that you're great at and good at.
Right. And the thing is, guys, is that you're not going to be the critic and the cheerleader at the same time, because in due season, you're doing one of the other, right? When you're down and out, you're the critic, right? You hit imposter syndrome. You hit all these things. I can't do this. I can't do that. But that's the time when you need to be the cheerleader, right? And hey, I can do this. I got this. Let's go. Let's keep it moving. That's the motivation that you have to have. You got to keep going. You got to keep believing in yourself, because no one else will, right?
Exactly. Like if you stop believe in yourself, no one will believe in you either. I mean, sure, your mom, a girlfriend or something, or your dad or whoever, they might have a surface level belief in you, but it's never going to be a true full belief in yourself like you do yourself, right? Like most people who are confident in themselves, they're like, hey, I could do that job better than anyone else, right? Like, this is something that my stepfather says. Like, I would much rather make or have myself make a mistake than have someone else make a mistake for me, you know?
Right.
Like he would want to be the one that again makes a mistake because he knows what he can do and he knows that he could still do the job well.
Right. And that's the thing, just giving your best, right? I mean, quitters never win and winners never quit, you know? So that's the model you have to kind of tell yourself when you're going through the hardship is that like I'm not a quitter, you know what I mean? I'm a winner and I'm not going to quit. So I got to keep pushing through, you know? And with that, you know, we want to talk about like what are some of the tips and tools, you know? I think one of the things that really has to take place and you have to build that foundation is mastering your mind, you know, and you got to tell yourself and inspire yourself and motivate yourself with different tools, you know, books. There's a lot of books out there to help, you know, in this area. So that's what'll keep you going.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that my life coach told me at one point. He was saying that mastering your mind is a mastering of everything, right? It's if you master the relationship with yourself, then you can master every other relationship. So if you master the fact that you are that you doubt yourself, well, you'll also doubt yourself in other aspects. What you do in one aspect, you do in all aspects, right? That's kind of why people say like, oh, if you have a messy car, you probably have a messy house because, you know, that will carry on. Although I will say my car is pretty clean, but my room is pretty messy or cluttered, I would say. But, you know, that's more personal. But just, you know, the way that you operate in one thing is by and large how you operate in other things as well.
Right. No, it's very important. You're right, bro. You know what I mean? There's a you know a scripture that says, you know, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, you know, because they're not focused, right? They're not, I'm going to do this. It's like, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that, you know, and that's the quote that I always say, he who chases many rabbits catches none. So like master your mind, you know, focus guys. That's the key. You know, when we start feeling, you know, like the hardships that are getting the best of us, it's because we're not focusing, you know. So we have to focus and take it to that next step, you know. Our next point is, you know, finding the ability to pivot, you know, to keep from staying stagnant, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, definitely, because you can you could stay in your lane, but if your lane ends or if that lane, you know how whenever you're driving it says right lane ends, right? But you stay in that lane, you're just gonna either drive off the road or be forced into another lane that you were not ready to change to. So just the ability to be agile is very important.
no, well said, bro. Yeah, and the sign is there for us, and a lot of times we're like that, you know, in our own lives. We see the signs and we know we should do things, but you know, sometimes we just get distracted. But it's important to, you know, to see it so that way we know when to pivot, you know, and we gotta find those ways, you know, to keep things, you know, going so they can serve us, you know.
Yeah, just keeping things fresh and active because what I mean by active is keeping things alive, keeping things not just the same way that you've been doing it for 5 years, for 10 years, whatever, you
Right.
know, because that not only will that get old, but you're not growing.
True. And when you're not growing, you're dying. You know what I mean? Metaphorically, you know, but in reality, it does. You know, it starts to affect you. You know, when you're not growing, honestly, when you're not growing, you start to take your eyes off of the growth and you start seeing all the negative things around you in others, right? And that's the first thing we start nitpicking at things. So, we got to find ways to keep things fresh and active. And again, like I said, community, books, relationships, just reaching out, even if it's just for a coffee, go out with some people, and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So that's some good ways, bro.
Yeah, just something to freshen up your week or your day or even your month. I may not do things new every day, but I'm doing something new every month, whether it's a small thing or a big thing, right? Whether it's a new habit, a new interest, or trying out a new place to eat. There's just keep things fresh.
Right.
Spice is like a variety, right? It's a variety of life, or whatever the
Right.
saying is.
Yeah.
Um,
You got
but
it.
yeah, just yeah. Uh, but just don't be stuck in your way, because if you get stuck in your way, then not only are you not growing and dying, but you're not improving as a person or as a product if you're a business owner. And that in itself that will make other people who started before you advance past you, because like this whole AI thing, there's a lot of people that don't even want to touch AI, but someone who's been using AI in their business for 1 year can completely blow out a person who has been in the business for 10, 15 years just because of the power of AI.
Right. No, it's that in itself, even just to stay on that for a second, bro, AI, I find myself like I used to, look up the content and like anything pretty much AI, but now it's down to like if it isn't within the last week or two, because we need to keep it fresh and active,
Yeah.
it's already considered old. So like that stuff doesn't serve you because a lot of those programs or those tools are already considered obsolete. So that's the same way we can
Hmm.
apply in our lives is like keeping things fresh and active. It's like if it's not serving you, then we have to find the things that do and keep going with that because if you don't, what ends up happening is a lot of people get set in their ways. So
Yeah, really. And kind of going back to like the previous example that I gave about the switching lanes in your car, be proactive about switching lanes or pivoting. Like I said, some people they'll wait till that lane ends, and if it's a busy road, which if you're doing something that is competitive, that road is going to be busy. And so instead of changing whenever you were ready to proactively, now you're having to fight with other cars in the lane. You might have to like push your way in or whatever the case may be, versus whenever if you saw the sign or if you knew that sign was coming up because you've driven that road so many times. Well, now you're not fighting for anyone. Now you're doing it on your time. Now you're being proactive and you're doing it on your terms.
yeah, and that's the thing, is it's following the signs first, and seeing everything, like from that perspective, right? And saying like, okay, if it's not serving, then I need to do this. If this is happening, then I need to do that. So I think so many times people get blindsided because they're not really paying attention. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
they get set in their ways and stuff like that. So, like my encouragement to you guys that are listening, if you're stuck right now, you're feeling like things are not going according to plan or the way I thought it was going to be. Here's the great news, guys. I'll give you guys the permission right now to change it. There's nothing that's set in stone. It's not a contract that if you don't do this, but if you don't change and you don't pivot, guys, you're only prohibiting yourself, you know what I mean? And you got to put in the exercises, you got to put in everything, just like that fighter you were talking about, bro. He came back, and that's a awesome testimony for him, because even a lot of people were saying he's not going to make it, he's not going to do it. And for him to make such a bold statement at the end, it was like because of all the hard work that he put in. And he looked at it and turned it around and said, you know what, the adversity that I had to go through to get here is my privilege,
Yeah,
and it served
exactly.
him, and that's a bold statement, and I like it because it's true, guys. When you get to your mountaintop and you make that accomplishment and you overcome, you too can say that, this adversity was a privilege. So that's the thing is, that's my take on it, bro.
Yeah, really. So I want to kind of touch upon what you just said, where it's like, if it's not serving you, or even if you do think it's serving you, right? Because even, you could get blindsided, like you said, like how, you could be like, oh, well, I'm making, we'll just give fake figures here, but oh, I'm making $2,000 a month from this one tool. But because you're making $2,000 a month from that one tool, maybe you don't want to shake it up or do something new because you're afraid. But once you use a different tool, well, now you could be making $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, and it's not only confidence in yourself, but it's confidence in the things around you, and it's really something that I've been fortunate about. Is just I'm constantly trying new things, so I mean that also works against me as well because I don't traditionally I didn't used to stick with things, right? So something that would give me $5,000 a month, it only gave me $1,000 a month because I didn't stick with it.
Right.
So there is a balance of sticking with things, but also learning when not to.
No, yeah, absolutely, bro. But you won't know if you don't try, right?
Adversity is a privilege.
Yeah, you got to try. You got to put in the effort. And here's the thing: the reality is that everybody's going to experience adversity, right? So it's like how we deal with it, is important. So, um, again, our topic today is about finishing strong. So it's not the end that matters the most, or the start, I should say. Let me rephrase that. It's not the start, but it's how you end. That way you can have that opportunity to say, just like this fighter said, adversity is a privilege. So have faith in yourself. Know and take the time to pivot, find the things that you need to do. If it's not serving you, get rid of it. So that way you don't get set in your ways and create those opportunities. So with that, Joseph, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say again, even if, let's say, anyone that's listening right now, they're having a tough time, right? Because I've been there where it's like people are telling me the good things. They're telling me like, oh, just keep going, whatever the case may be. And you may not be ready to take this in or really apply it, but even me speaking right now in this moment, I've been through that moment so many times, but just know that once you start doing that, you'll build a momentum, you'll build a confidence. So even if you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym because I'm sad, just going to the gym, even if you just drive to the gym and get there and you walk into the gym and you're like, nah, that is so much more important than you staying in your room, staying in your bubble of sorrow. If you do something a little bit active or just put in any amount of effort, that will be so much more fruitful than just staying where you are.
Right on, bro. Very well said. We appreciate that. And with that, guys, we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. Don't forget, wherever you listen to, subscribe, leave a comment and a review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Stay blessed.
Bye-bye.